Ladies and gentlemen, massage therapists of all ages, welcome to Ben and Nate's Questions That We Ask People on the Internet. I am one half of your host, Nate Fay. I'm a licensed massage therapist. I'm an osteopath, and when I'm not in my practice, I'm traveling the whole world teaching for the Freedom from Pain Institute.
And hey, everybody, my name is Ben Stone. I am your co-host to the wonderful Nate Fay. We do this podcast that we call Ben and Nate's Questions We Ask People on the Internet, and we have a great time doing it. Nate, tell people what we do in this podcast.
Well, Ben, we're a little bit of everyone. We are two massage therapists with a couple microphones. We are thinking practitioners, but best of all, we ask questions on the internet. So we ask questions on Facebook, on I don't even know where else, but primarily Facebook. And we want you to chime in and we want you to answer those questions because that helps us create the content for this show. We choose our favorite answers, and then Ben and I have excellent discussions over these beautiful questions that we formulate.
I like that. Kind of like Bill and Ted's excellent discussions. But
Yes.
It's Ben and Nate's excellent. That could be the name. Yeah. So we have a great time doing this. Without you, we couldn't do this. And if you guys don't send in questions for us to answer, we pick our own. Kind of like we may have done today.
I think
but
we did.
Before we get into questions for today, let's talk about what you've been up to, Nate, because I know you've been on the road. And tell me about where you've been, what you've been doing, how you've been doing, and all the world travels you've been up to.
Well, first of all, Ben, before I answer that, I just want to say happy election day to you. Episode 27, it's November 5th, and it's going to be a pretty wild ride, but we won't talk politics at the massage table, will we?
We can make political jokes, but we won't get specific into who our favorites are or anything like that.
We don't want to lose our fan base.
That's right.
Anytime soon. Anyway, yeah, I had a good fall, man. We took a little bit of a break from the show. I was traveling. Since I think we recorded our last episode, I went up and I taught at the Canadian Massage Conference in Burlington, Ontario, Canada, which was just an absolute incredible 2 days. And I taught for 2 days up there, and I got to mingle with some pretty awesome people in our industry. Of course, Scott Dartnell and that whole crew, Mark from two RMTs and a microphone, got to spend some time with him, and awesome teachers like Brad Norris and Carrie D'Ambrosio, and just really got to kind of watch everybody do their thing. So that was fun. But the highlight of that trip, and we don't sponsor anyone or get sponsored or anything like that, but the highlight of that trip was I got to take a tour of the Cardin factory. Cardin if you're from Connecticut, Cardone if you're from Canada. And if you don't know who they are, they make not only therapy tables for massage therapists, but they make rehab tables for everyone from PTs to chiros to massage therapists to hospitals and doctors' offices. And this factory, Ben, it literally was like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory visiting this place.
Did you get a free sample?
I did. The snozberries tasted like snozberries. Absolutely. Nice. But it was just super cool latest and greatest laser cutters cutting the metal and steel of these tables within 4,000th of an inch, robotic welders, welding these tables together. And the owner, his name is Mardig, and his daughter, Laura Lara, man, they just love it. They love our field. They're huge proponents of massage therapy. So it was just super cool to spend an afternoon with that crew.
Man, that sounds super fun.
Yeah, it was awesome. And then I taught my last class of the season in Connecticut just a couple weeks ago, and we're gearing up for our annual Pain in Paradise in Costa Rica coming up first week of December. So looking down the pipe, going way down south. How about you, buddy?
All good things. You mentioned the Canadian Massage Conference. I'm just going to put a plug for those guys because they are coming to Florida
They
in
are.
2025. I can't remember, is March or April, something like
I
that.
think it's May,
May, okay.
and I believe it's May. It's going to be in Orlando, and guess who is doing the keynote address for that?
Ooh, don't keep me in suspense.
Our good friend Eric Dalton is going to be doing the keynote address for that, so that should be pretty cool.
Man, that's going to be a fun one. So I kind of already have some plans to attend that. So if anyone wants to come down and, Nate and I will sign autographs if you want, or we'll just hang out and, you could ignore us like we get ignored at a lot of places we go to anyway.
We'll sign your iPhone
Oh yeah.
because that's like
Or
how
we'll
you
take a
listen to
selfie
us,
together.
right? We'll
I'm
do
good at those.
that. Yes, you are.
Yeah. I've had some vacation time. So I got out to Colorado. We walked around Rocky Mountain National Park. I went up to South Dakota, did some fishing. We limited out on perch. Just had a good week and a half off. And so I've been back in the office for a couple weeks and just looking forward to getting back and recording podcasts for you guys. Ben and Nate's excellent discussions.
You said you were catching perch. What did you make with your catch?
Right now they're still frozen.
Yeah.
We haven't ate them yet because I went from straight from fishing straight out to Colorado, so we didn't really have time.
We fish Lake Champlain in Vermont, and perch up there. It's like it's all you catch if you want to catch perch. And we used to make perch stew all the time.
That sounds real good.
Phenomenal. Yeah. We
Cool.
will post a recipe for perch stew.
Not only do you get to hear about massage stuff, but you can hear about perch recipes. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's right.
what can't we do?
What can't we do, Ben?
I love it. Well, let's get into maybe our topic for today.
Let's do it. What's on the docket for tonight?
Yeah,
Episode
so I'm
7.
gonna lead us in with a little bit of a story I want to tell you. So this new employee gets hired at a new company and is in the in processing and talking to the HR manager, and the HR manager says, "Hey, I really think you should sign up for our company's 401k." And the new employee says, no thanks, I can't run that far." Oh, I know.
It's like you said, Ben. What can't we do?
I mean, comedy, recipes. So, to bring us into our topic for today, it reads, what are some essential skills for new massage therapists to develop?
That's a big question.
It's a big question. And I think I put this one out there because, when you get to a certain point in your career, you forget what it took to get there. And I can remember in my early career when I maybe had 3 appointments in one week was a good week for me.
It sure
That's when
was.
I had a part-time job that was, I would get, between 20 and 30 hours in a weekend, in Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so that I could keep my week open to do massage work.
Yeah.
And I forget all the things. Now that the internet is here, we have access to, like, I can reach out to my friend Nate and he can give me advice. We have this great tool, but back then I didn't know who to ask. I didn't know what to ask. I didn't know anything. So I think, exploring this idea of what are some of the essential skills for new massage therapists is, I think it's important for all you new massage therapists listening, all
Yeah.
one of you.
Well, you know what, Ben? I think this episode's going to break the internet because if I was a new massage therapist and there was a podcast, I would absolutely want to listen to this, right? But I was thinking about your question a lot, and I think some of the things that you and I might say tonight, right? Things that we did 20 years ago, probably won't be applicable to how, what are, some things will still be essential, right? But times are changing. Like you said, the access to information now is completely different. So certainly, you know, it'll be interesting to hear what we did 20 years ago and beyond, what we still do to sort of all the new ways, right? The new skills, the different skills that are maybe needed down the road, right? Even as a massage therapist.
Yeah, and last episode we talked about how has the perception of the industry evolved over the years. So we kind of also looked back to our earlier careers. So this kind of plays off of that, but how can we help those that are just starting out to do the things that took me way too long to learn?
Yeah. Let's cover a little bit of history. I like the, I think history is important, and history of what you and I did 20 years ago, and probably a lot of our other colleagues listening to us probably went down the same road. And just to recap, right, we talked about, just like you said, so reiterate, we talked about last episode, right, the perception of massage therapy. We know that 20 years ago, still maybe in dark ages in some aspects, to now massage is widely accepted and is sort of going to number one with a bullet, particularly with people with chronic pain conditions and acute pain conditions, neck, low back pain, so on and so forth. So that's certainly changed over 20 years. But getting back to what are some essential skills? I mean, there's all different roads we can, as you would say, there's different ways we could go about this, right? There's business skills, there's hands-on skills, there's personality skills, so on and so forth. And I think that, you tell me if I'm wrong, but I think if we asked any of our colleagues, right, that went to school 10, 15, 20 years ago and beyond, let's talk about the business realm first. What was your business class like in massage school? And I think we'd probably get a rousing, man, it just wasn't that good, right? It seemed, at least for me, I'll speak for myself, it was unrealistic. We didn't really cover what it would take to be a massage therapist. Back then, there was no franchises, there was no going to work for anybody, so developing skills to go out into the public and start your own practice.
Yeah, I think I elected to stay in school an extra 3 months in order to earn my associate's degree in applied science for massage therapy. And part of that was a business class, which was not, like you said, not the greatest, but it was one of those things, we had to come up with a business plan. Everyone does the math where they're like, okay, I'm going to do 40 massages in a week at, $65 a massage. And
Yep.
man, I'm going to be, I'm going to be raking in the money.
Right. I thought the day that I went to the testing center in Connecticut and got my license, my phone was going to start ringing, you know,
Yeah.
and it didn't happen, So I was on my own, right? I was on my own to sort of go out and figure out, well, how do I start a business? And we won't get into all that stuff, but I think I can fast forward that into, essential skills for a new massage therapist are, what is your business plan and how are you going to execute that? What's your realistic plan for maybe that first year versus your 3-year plan versus your 5-year plan? But ultimately, how are you going to execute that? And I can safely say, for me back then, probably the best thing that I did for my career, social media was in its infancy, right? But I joined a networking group, and I know they still exist around the country, called BNI, and Business Networking International, right? So they were sort of this franchise business group that met once a week. And it was other business professionals, and that you got together and you just tried to help and support and build each other's businesses. And that I can safely attribute to being one of the probably the best things that I did.
Getting the word out, I think, is important. And this was something I was going to bring up. It's not what, but who is going to help you get to where you need to go.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things I don't know about business, but I know people who do. And if I would have known this 20 years ago, instead of just trying to figure it out myself, who can I reach out to? There's a lot of people that will offer advice for free. I mean, there's YouTube now, but even other massage therapists are usually more than happy to give you some advice, a little bit of advice for free.
Yeah, and you and I probably have said it on every episode, but man, go get we had an episode, right? A coach, a mentor, so on and so forth. And go and pay somebody, go and pay somebody that's smart, a good business coach, and just start getting that stuff early on. And these are all things that I wish I did 20 years ago. I wish I hired somebody in the beginning. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, from the beginning, you can start saving on, how much you're paying in taxes if you get the right advice and you start the right, business. If you start the LLC or the S corp or whatever you're going to be, besides the sole proprietor, because you're paying so much more in self employment tax. So there's so much to know that I only know a little bit of what my accountant has told me, but I remember that. But I know that I can go to my accountant and get that advice.
So far, essential business skills, right? New massage therapist, hire a business coach, write a plan down, write realistic plans down versus maybe unrealistic ones, short term and long term. I always thought the vision board was like a goofy concept, but then I started like doing it, several years ago. That thing really works, man. Write it down, write down your dreams and goals. And it's a
Man,
pretty
there are
interesting
so many
thing.
books out there about how to achieve certain, you just throw out whatever you want to do. I want to do this in 5 years and then work your way back from there. That's kind of what I've been doing is, hey, in 5 years, I want to be here. And so what's it going to take to get there? What can I
Yeah.
do this week? What can I do this month? And what can I do this year to get me one step closer?
And depending on, I can safely say too, and I'm hearing this as you're saying that, right? I think that being self-employed, being in business for yourself, this isn't to overwhelm anybody, but it doesn't stop when you come home, right? It doesn't stop when you come home at the end of your client day, does it?
Not at all.
Yeah. And so don't be afraid to put in that sort of sweat and all that sort of good stuff in the beginning, because I'm telling you, it starts rolling along and pays off, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's all something, you evolve as you do it. It's never going to be perfect. And I have a hard time with that. And I think last time I admitted that I was, suffered from imposter syndrome. And then that's one of the symptoms is trying to have everything perfect. But I know not
Right.
everything's going to always be perfect. And I'm letting some of that go.
That's good. That's real good.
I'm going to throw this out there as one of the least important things, but I think it is something to talk about is, technique, because we
Mm.
talk about
Yeah.
this all the time. The least important thing that we do is technique. But as a new massage therapist, it I think it does rank a little bit higher. It's something that you should probably put some emphasis on in your first 2 to 5 years.
Yeah, I think so. And I was lucky early on. I got hooked up with this chiropractor in his business, and he just started getting my hands on a lot of bodies, and it gave me time to sort of develop who I was as a massage therapist and sort of who I ultimately, I guess, became in this business. And but yeah, that first year, man, develop who you are. And I think I agree with you. That's probably where like technique and session and everything can matter, right? Because all those other skills that need to develop, how you talk to people, how you listen to people, personality, how you jive with people, which you and I know is probably more important than technique ultimately, right? It's why people come back to you. They trust you. And why do they trust you? Because they like you, right? So, but yeah, in the beginning, what is your session? Who are you? How's your flow? What are your goals? What are you accomplishing?
Yeah, you mentioned I think we should throw this out there as another essential skill is communication. You mentioned that.
Yeah,
And I'm just going to throw it out there. Communication is not just when the client shows up at your door and you're putting them on the massage table, but it starts way before that. And you talk about this a lot, but it's what does your website say? What do other people say about you who are referring to you? Chiropractors, PTs, whoever, that communication starts before you even have a chance to lay eyes on that person.
right. That first phone call, how do you answer your phone? Are you clear? Do you sound without putting it on, you don't have to sound fake, but do you sound alive and well when you're answering the phone?
Yeah.
And, dealing with the public, I mean, you're dealing with a bajillion and one different personalities. You're dealing with all walks of life. You're dealing with people that are at their best and are at their worst when they're looking for an appointment with us, and do you know how to handle, any given personality at any time, and how do you answer questions? Right?
Yeah.
People call up, are you prepared from a personality standpoint? So and so massage office, this is Nate. How can I help you? How much is your session? Do you know how to turn that around and make it a conversation versus, throwing the price at them and having them go click, right? All that stuff's
Absolutely.
so important, right?
Yeah, and we've talked about this before, and I just taught a class about this a couple weeks ago, but the big theme of the class is managing expectations. How how do we let people know what it is we do and why they should come see us? So like at the beginning of this podcast, we let you know, hey, this is what we do. We take questions from people and then we post it on the internet and we talk about it, so we're letting people know why should you listen to our podcast from the beginning. So same thing as a new massage therapist, why should someone come see you versus anyone else in your city? And I did this thing. Let me tell you about this little experiment I did. I wanted to create a website because that's another thing that's pretty essential to new massage therapists is getting indexed on Google. But I used AI to create a website. And I said, AI, I want you to create a website for a massage therapist that has whatever, 10 years of experience and help me with the wording. And it spit out something that I see on almost all massage therapist websites. I will customize and tailor a massage specific to your body's wants and needs, you know? And I'm like, oh my God, AI is just pulling off of all these websites. But then you think about it, how often do you Google when you're looking for a website or a massage therapist? How often do you put into Google, find me a massage therapist that will tailor a massage to my particular wants and needs? Never.
Right.
It's a massage
Never.
near me, massage for low back pain, massage for headaches, massage for this, massage for that. Um, so,
Massage
helping
near me.
exactly helping to define what makes you stand out. Um, I think it is good to managing expectations and actually getting people in your door because you have something that they are looking for. You solve a problem that they have.
Man, you just got my wheels spinning. That could be a whole spin-off episode. It's like, man, no kidding. You're gonna tailor your session towards me. I'm a unique individual in your office. Of course you are.
Yeah, and I'll tell you when I was talking to our advertising team, they said, "Who is your ideal customer?" And the way we answered it was, "Well, just anybody who wants massage." Which ideally, yeah, yeah, at the beginning, you want anyone who wants to pay you money. Yeah, I'll be, you can be my client. But really, when you try to help everyone, you're really not helping anyone because
Right.
you're not standing out. Like, how can I help you? It doesn't mean that, you advertise that you're a low back pain specialist. Doesn't mean you can't work with feet or shoulders or headaches, but you got to find a way to get people to come recognize who you are and what you do.
Yeah. And there is, I think probably in the same token, there's a lot of talk about, do you need to niche yourself to be successful in this field? And I felt that way years ago, and I guess I ultimately did because I think that was what was drilled in my head. And I'm not sure anymore if you really need to entirely like niche yourself into this one thing.
That's that. Yeah, that could be a whole nother
But that
podcast.
could be a whole nother thing. But so we won't get into that
But
tonight.
I will say this in general. I think if you follow what interests you, you will fall into your own niche
Sure.
just naturally.
Okay. All right. So new massage therapist, right? You create a business plan, maybe the advice of hiring a business coach, develop your personality and interpersonal skills, have a great website that defines who you are. Don't fall into being generic. Learn how to answer the phone, be ready to answer questions. And then certainly when it comes time, when somebody has booked the appointment, Ben said expectations. Lay those expectations out. Okay, so and so your appointment's at 4 o'clock Tuesday, December 17th. I repeat everything back to them. And then, this is what you can plan on for the first session. You'll be in for whatever you booked them in for. This is how much it is. And then follow that stuff up with an email with directions. And what I'm still learning 20 years later is to reiterate to people, you're going to get an email. Please read the whole thing. And I know for me, Ben, I know just going off the cuff here, I know when people have not read my email, because one of the second sentences is how to enter my office, because I have two entryways. I have a front and a back entrance. And so I ask people to enter from the back entrance, what I call the parking lot entrance, and to have a seat. There's two chairs, have a seat if I'm not out to greet you. And I know when somebody hasn't read the email because they come slamming through my office, banging on the front door, walking through my office, hello, hello, hello. And that just happened recently. And I said, did you get the email I sent you? And he says, well, he goes, yeah, I get it. But I just put I didn't read it. I just put your address into my GPS. And, again, my own seminar, I didn't tell him, please read it.
Yeah, I mean, to reiterate, managing expectations, the more specific you can be with what you want from your people, the better your day is going to go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And people will know when to show up, and reminders, right? And the same thing of businesses. It's interesting to me in this day and age, right? Almost 2025. And it's fascinating to me. I make appointments where I don't get a reminder at all, right? They have no reminder system in place. I'm going to see my favorite chiropractor tomorrow morning. He sends his reminders the morning of the appointment. And I love the guy. I'm baffled by that, right? I mean, I don't know. That to me, that is an absolute risk of just blowing out your whole day, right? By allowing people essentially to cancel because you sent out your reminder that day. So have a good
Yeah.
reminder system in place. And I'll tell you, piece of advice for new therapists, get those reminders out 2 days or more in advance. If you want to have a smooth work week, get them out.
This is interesting as we talk about all of these things that new massage therapists, would benefit from. Um, it reminds me, so, and I've mentioned several times that I've been dabbling in photography. And one of the things that I want to learn and get better at is taking pictures of people. So, like portraits, that kind of thing. I've been
Yeah.
doing some senior portraits just for fun. But now I'm getting people who've seen, oh, you're doing this. Hey, will you come take pictures of my family? And I'm willing to do all this, but I'm recognizing I don't have I don't have everything in place. I don't have those agreements, and I don't have that all in place, because those questions come up. Well, how much do you charge? What do I need to do? And I haven't had time to do all that. And so I have to tell them, hey, I'm building this as I go. And so I'm seeing similarities as if I were to imagine starting a photography business, there's a lot of similarities to starting that business as there would be in starting a massage therapy business.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of goes in hand with what you said earlier about, don't feel like you have to accept everybody that calls. It's okay to say no. Took me how long did it take you to start saying no, Ben? And I mean in the massage therapy world. I'm not saying
Oh,
all those girls that are knocking down your door.
yeah, that's a big difference there.
Right.
Man, probably 8 to 10 years, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Too long.
Embarrassing, man. I think it took me like 16. Truly. Took me a long time.
Yeah.
Don't be like Ben and Nate.
That's a great one. Be willing to take on the people that are going to fill your bucket, to make your day better. If you fill your day with people who you like to work with, I mean, that just makes your day that much better. It doesn't mean that they're bad people because you say no to them. It just means
Right.
you're not their kind of people.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like this show. There's people who love to listen to this show, and there's other people like, I'd rather go listen to two RMTs and a mic because I like Mark better. But that's
That's
fine.
right.
We like
Well,
him
who
too.
doesn't? I like Mark better too than me.
I'm
No,
with you
I'm just
there. Yeah. He's just so smooth in the way he talks, isn't he? I love
yeah.
it. But we could pine over him all night, couldn't we?
We sure can.
So I'm going to kind of label that what we just talked about being able to say no. I'm gonna label that as kind of an ethical boundary or boundary making because that kind of goes hand in hand with managing expectations and that kind of thing, creating boundaries.
It's interesting, Ben, because you can, their business coaches are far and wide. There's always YouTube University now to get all that business advice and marketing advice. There's plenty of continuing education classes. Of course, there's plenty of free techniques to develop your techniques now. I mean, back in our day, we didn't have any of that stuff. But how does one develop? I mean, we're talking we spent some time talking about personality, right? Answering phones, sort of being a good, knowing how to work with people. How do you develop those personal skills? How do you develop your personality? How do you develop with working with the public and being able to answer questions on the fly and navigate all the different types of people that interact with us?
I don't have a good answer for that. I think part of it is just you put yourself out there and you
Yeah,
learn, you sink or
right.
swim. Some people are just naturals. They I would buy ketchup popsicle sticks wearing white gloves from some people. They're just
Right.
that smooth. Whereas other
Sure.
people, it's like, I'm just running through scenarios in my head where I've had less than stellar experiences at places, and it's like, how do you even how do you even operate? How do you get customers if you can't even relate to? I'm pretty easy to get along with. At least I like to think so. But yeah,
Right.
how do you how do you build a business when you can't relate to people, and especially where communication is so important in what we do?
I mean, for me, a lot of it was time, it just time, and that's why they call it practice, right? But, with that being said, I don't think it would hurt. I don't think it would hurt to, maybe learn some public speaking, right? Go take a public speaking class. I know one of my seminar friends that teaches seminars, he took acting classes as he was getting into the seminar business.
That would be
Standing on
fantastic.
stage and performing, you're performing for the day. I thought that was genius that he did that.
Yeah. Wow. So I actually have a degree in some of it is public speaking, but a lot of it is it's called communication studies, which I
Yeah.
basically boil down to the psychology of interpersonal communication. But does that mean I'm a good speaker? I mean, I've had opportunities to speak in front of people, but I tell you what, I get scared as crap, getting in front of people. I had a Zoom class 2 weeks ago and I was scared, really scared before it started. Then once it started, I'm like, this is no big deal. Why was I so scared about this? It all goes
Right.
back to that imposter syndrome that I was talking about. And I'm beating it slowly, day by day.
That's right. Okay. So business, personal skill, technique is still on the bottom of the list like it is in all our podcasts.
You said a word that made me think of something that might be helpful. What do you think about this? Time management. Is
Yeah,
that something that's essential for newer massage therapists?
absolutely. You have to, right, within your office. I mean, there's a few different time management things we could talk about, but there's your schedule, right? What is your schedule? What are your office hours? And are you going to stick to them? Because it's easy, and I think this probably runs rampant in our world, and I know a lot of my chiropractic colleagues, because One of the things that we do best is we help people. We don't want to say no when, one of our longtime patients calls us and says, "Oh man, I hurt my back. Can you just please, please, please see me today?" Right? So define your schedule. What are your office hours? And are you going to stick to it? Are you going to work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5? Um, and and how are you going to manage your day? Are you going to book 60-minute sessions with 15-minute breaks, 30-minute breaks? And how does that break down to how many clients that you want to see for the day and for the week?
Yeah, let me ask you this question. You get
And there's
a
more than that, sure.
you get a text message at 10 o'clock at night saying, "Hey, do you have time to get me in tomorrow?" What does Nate Fay do in that situation?
Well, what Nate does is I've got every day I leave two for me, uh, like extra little breaks in there for those sort of 911 calls. And so that, yes, if I can anticipate, one or two of those a week, then I've got those spots ready to go.
How about when do you handle that? Do you respond at 10 o'clock at night?
No,
No.
definitely not. And old Nate, sure. Old Nate that used to couldn't say no, used to respond at 10 o'clock at night. But no, absolutely not. I took me a long time, ladies and gentlemen, but I only respond during my business hours.
Yeah, and that's a type of
And
boundary, correct? We talked about
that's
that
a
a little
that's a
earlier.
huge boundary, and that's time management, you
Yeah.
know. Your best friend, partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, dog, cat, or parrot, whatever you live with, doesn't want to be looking over at you at 10 o'clock at night and watch you doing work. That's for sure. But that stuff aside, it's an interesting thing because it also creates a monster. And that sort of monster is the old Nate that used to respond at 10 o'clock at night, right? And then I shut that down probably again only in the last like 2 or 3 years. And then those same people were like all of a sudden at 8 a.m. before my office hours. Hey man, I texted you last night at 10 o'clock. Maybe you didn't get it, but I just want to make sure that you got it and blah, 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 blah. And, all that power, right? That power of, okay, you can wait till 9, you can wait till 10 or whenever I'm going to get back to you. Super important to do. Establish that stuff early.
Yeah, we're now in this world where people expect instantaneous communication.
Yeah.
Like I want feedback right now. I want to be able to get a hold of so and so. I want to know this, I want to know that. And
Fast.
wow, definitely having those boundaries to just keep your sanity and take your time back.
Right. You have to do it. So,
Yeah.
with that being said, right, plot out your schedule. And then the other thing, Ben, time management, you're also going to have to plot out time to, if you're working by yourself, which most of us do, most of us don't have a front desk person. What's your time frame going to be when, it's halfway through the day and all of a sudden you've got 4 emails and 3 new phone calls to return? What's your management on that? And by the way, that also goes back to setting expectations because on my outgoing voicemail, when people call, I say, please allow me 24 hours during regular business days to call you back. What do you do, Ben, for time management? How do you plot that stuff out?
Well, I was formulating this question in my head. I wasn't sure how to ask you this, but how how easy is it to get behind in a day?
Well, it can be pretty. I've rode that line a little bit when I get those 911 calls because basically now I've got to manage that person, right? So, if it's 11:30 and I'm basically coming out of session, I've got to check that person out. Another thing I've started doing over the last couple of years is I just have people book multiple sessions because A, that cuts down time, and B, that makes sure that they get the time that they want. And then I've got to do a quick changeover of my table. I work on most people clothed, so there's not like a huge, massive sheet changeover. So there's, again, a little bit of ease with that. Wash my hands, and then get that person on the table. And I've gotten pretty damn good about that. Like I can do that all pretty like within a few minutes. And then I've got to also get that 911 off the table, because if my next appointment's at uh, 12, I basically have about 20 minutes to work on that person. And there's been times where it was a little bit more complicated or I need a little bit more time. But, you know, if it's 12:03, and I'm coming out, I apologize. I usually say, "Hey, I'm real sorry. I'm just running a little bit behind today." And not that I would ever equate us or our profession to our good friends in the medical world or the doctor world, but man, our doctor friends are just king of running behind. And so I think most people, if you're running a couple minutes behind, I've never gotten, usually people make a joke about it. Maybe, usually people are like, oh, that's okay. I wait 25 minutes for my doctor to come out. So a couple minutes, if I get behind, is you usually make it up on the other end. And that's also a good time for your personality to shine. I'll walk out of my room and I'll say, in my next life, I want to be a doctor. And that's usually what I say to people that are waiting for me. So
Yeah.
soften the blow with humor.
Yeah, and you think about how that affects the person waiting if you don't, take care of that in the right way. Because uh, just a recent experience, you think about a restaurant. I was at a restaurant and we pretty much got ignored by the waiter. We were ready to order. We'd been there for at least 10 minutes already, and the table who was seated after us had their order taken, and we're sitting there and, getting a little bit frustrated, like, hey,
Sure.
we've been here a while. And so you think about how that affects people who are coming in to get massage work, and they may already have a headache or a backache or shoulder ache or something like that. And that just kind of adds a little bit more to their frustration, just kind of pokes it a little bit. And so if you're not able to manage that well, yeah, it's just a thought I
Sure.
had.
No, and it's a good thought because, truthfully, in those situations, we actually had the same experience Saturday night at a new restaurant in town. Truthfully, if the waiter or waitress or whoever came up to you and said, "Hey, listen, we're overwhelmingly busy. Thanks for coming out. I'll be back to you guys in 5 minutes to get your drink orders." That would totally squash your stress, anxiety, and frustrations. I think
Yeah.
it would, right?
Absolutely. There's a statistic that I'm going to mess up, but I think it's appropriate for this. So, you think about someone who has a good experience at your place of business. They are 72% more likely to, or 72% likely to return to your business because they had a good or average experience. Now, let's
Yeah,
say there's a problem, like the waiter didn't show up, or there's some issue where your food came out cold or that kind of thing. And this is your opportunity to take care of that and maybe meet or exceed their expectations. And so for taking care of that problem. So if you meet or exceed those expectations for taking care of that problem, those people are now 84% more likely to return to your establishment because you took care of them and took ownership of that problem. How's
it's a
that for a
wild.
stat that
I think I actually love that stat, and it's an interesting thing because I've had people in my office that I wasn't able to help, right? And of course, in our own egos and our own brains, we think we totally blew that experience, right? We leave feeling, we walk away from those situations feeling absolutely terrible. And then I've turned, and I'm sure you've experienced this too, that I've turned around and I've gotten referrals from those people. And it's like shocking, right? And, people call and say, well, so and so referred me. And in my head, I'm going, oh my God, like I totally like was at my worst in that session. I couldn't help them. and they come in and they say, "Oh yeah, my friend loved you so much. They just thought you were so awesome and so helpful." And in my head, I'm going, "Well, you know, so there you go, right?
Yeah.
So something hit them, maybe just the honesty of, I don't think I'm going to be able to help you, but I know somebody who can, and that's okay too."
That's interesting because one of the things that I do to prepare for our little excellent discussions is sometimes I throw in the question into Chat GPT and find out what AI has to say. And one of the categories that AI had to say about this was empathy and patience. That having empathy and patience was maybe an essential skill for new massage therapists to develop. And I think what we just talked about kind of plays into that. So, I mean, I'm always amazed at what Chat GPT, what AI could come up with, and it's pretty much nailing some of the things that we just organically came up with.
That's pretty awesome that that the old AI said that. And yeah, everybody coming into our office, right? Neck pain, low back pain, right? Empathy,
Yeah,
right?
and we don't even know just we have those physical symptoms, but we don't even know what's going on at home. A loved one passed
Right.
away, they're caring for a loved one, whatever. I mean, there's so many other layers that affect that affect how we interpret pain. That I mean, we're only scratching the surface in the office.
Sure. Sure. Love that. That's awesome. Create a warm environment, establish trust, have empathy
Yeah,
and teamwork. No, let your clients know that you're working with them.
yeah. I think that's sometimes referred to as the therapeutic alliance.
Yeah, sure is.
Yeah. Well, I'll just throw out another one that AI had to talk about was continuing to learn, adapting and continuing to learn, because both you and I have been in the profession long enough where what we were taught 10, 15, 20 years ago is a little bit different now. How we approach things, how we understand things. I mean, heck, there's new muscles. Well, not new muscles, but stuff that have been classified as muscles now that were not classified as muscles before. It's just muscle names have changed. Peroneus has been changed to fibularis longus and that kind of thing. So things keep changing. So it's important to keep up with continuing our educations.
Right. Right. And our clients love it. Our clients love knowing that you guys and that we are out there learning. They get excited. So post that stuff on your social media. Hey, went and took a class with Ben this weekend. One of your clients is going to see that and they're going to be like, "What'd you learn?"
I always share, some things that I've learned at classes I've been to recently, and then I'll make a little joke and I'll explain to them a little bit of the anatomy. They don't need to know that, but I think sometimes it's important that they know that why I'm doing something. And I'll just joke around and say, that's going to be on the quiz later, so just prepare
Right.
yourself.
For sure.
You can tell when I'm getting into things that my hands start to go. That's one
That's right. Me too.
that's one indicator where I'm getting really excited as my hands go.
Actually, I actually had somebody ask me that in my last class in Connecticut. Somebody raised their hand and they're like, "Do you still go out and take classes? Or are you done with that stuff?" I'm like, man, I'm never done. I was kind of an interesting question. It was kind of came out of nowhere, and I was like, nope, never stop.
Where does it stop? It can't stop. If you have a genuine curiosity for how things work, one of the things I realize is the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know anything. And I told that to somebody today. Like I'm learning as much as I can, but I learned that I don't know a whole lot.
Should an essential skill for a new massage therapist? They talk a lot about this in school. We've talked about this before, but you're self-employed, right? You're going to your practice every day. What should you wear? Should you have a uniform? Is that an essential part of it, being having an essential skill? And something that you should know going into this as a new massage therapist.
Yeah, I think I would categorize that under professionalism. how
Yeah.
do you want to portray yourself? Because you have, I mean, like we talked about at the beginning, how do you want people to see you before they even walk into your office? What does your website say? Do you fit everything that they have heard about you when they walk into your office? Or are you in, Daisy Dukes and a tank top?
That'd be weird.
Yeah.
It'd be weird if one of us showed up like
I don't know that you would like to see me in Daisy Dukes and a tank top.
that.
Having a professional, having a professional appearance, not both personally, but professionally in all aspects of your business. Man, we covered a lot of stuff today, Nate. Is there anything else that you think that needs to be talked about?
Well, let's see. We talked about, we covered the business end, right? Develop your business skills, have goals, short term, long term, work on your personality, work on your time management skills, plot out your schedule, stick to it, be true to it, have empathy and patience with your clients, and, brand yourself through your website, how you dress, and all that good stuff. Man, I wish I had this 20 years ago.
Man, no kidding. So tell me, I like to always ask this question, what's a big takeaway? What stuck out to you in everything that we talked about today?
I think AI's answer about empathy and patience.
Yeah.
And that AI is getting pretty smart here.
I think
That was
there
pretty
is
cool.
something when people know that you're genuine and you're genuinely there to help them, whether you're at skill level 2 or skill level 10. I think that when they can sense you really care and you're going to do everything that in your power to help them, I
Yeah,
think people pick up on that.
absolutely. What was your big takeaway, buddy?
I think one of the big takeaways that I have is just maybe recognizing that it's not always going to be perfect. And even now, my business, I've been doing it 20 years, but it's not perfect.
Right.
My expectations, my communication, all that stuff is not perfect, but it's about just little steps and just getting a little bit better each day. And so recognizing that there's a lot of things to work on and you can't do that overnight. So don't let that keep you from setting those goals and trying new things every day. How's that
Absolutely.
for a takeaway? I don't know that we
Buddy.
completely talked about it, but it's kind of what just popped in my head as this is what I'm going to take away from this conversation.
Yeah. And I think all this stuff, right? We talk about a lot of stuff every podcast, and but if you're listening to this, don't feel like you have to do everything all at once either, right? If you're listening to some of these things and you're like, I like this idea, and this idea, spread it out. Don't feel like it has to all happen in the first 6 months or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. I know part of being suffering from the imposter syndrome is I look at things and I'm like, oh man, how do I do that? So I can't see the trees through the forest. I'm focused on the big picture and I'm like, how am I ever going to get there? But you've got to
Right.
take those little steps to get
Yeah.
there.
Absolutely, my friend.
Yeah, awesome. Well, what do we like to talk about at the end of the show? We already talked about how the show operates. Let's talk about Nate. Tell people if they like the show, let them know how they can support what we're doing.
First of all, you can participate. We always want you to participate and answer our questions. We've got a ton of questions that we're going to be covering over the next couple months. So be sure to check out our Facebook page and chime in and answer those questions. Give us a listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all that good stuff. Keep spreading the word. Don't hesitate to share our podcast with your colleagues.
Yeah, we love it when people say, "Oh, I got a referral to listen to your podcast from somebody that was just bored needing a massage therapy podcast, and you guys popped up." So
That's
we love
right.
to hear that.
That's right. So we are going to look for you folks on episode 28
28, we'll have a brand new question for all of us to discuss. I don't know what that question is yet, but we'll research it and figure it out.
We'll do it. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining in and listening to episode 27 of Ben and Nate's Questions that we ask people on the internet.
Thanks for watching.
And by the way, we didn't talk politics once on this election day, but the next episode, I think maybe we'll have a new president.